I'd like to say welcome to you all to the first of our brand new series of FFF for this year. So you are very welcome. It's good to see you here with us. Little talking numbers today, but that's because one or two people felt they couldn't come after all, and also our Roman Catholic friends also have something else on this evening. Wouldn't it just happen that way? But nevertheless, it's the quality that matters.
Should be a rag.
We have to believe that's true anyway, and it is true, of course. I'd like to say thank you as usual to Joyce for organising the food, and for Ruth and Rita and Bob setting up earlier. So without those organisational things, it would be half the evening it is. So thank you to them. As you probably know, this series is looking at the I am sayings of our Lord from as in John's Gospel. And the first one we're looking at is I am the Good Shepherd, and we want to give a particularly warm welcome to Olwen, who she has been before over the years to our FFFs, and we are glad she's able to come again to see us. And this evening she's going to talk about I am the Good Shepherd. So over to you. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody. Hello. Thank you for the food. It says having to make tea, which is wonderful. Yeah. And I always wonder at this point, will I ever say yes? Because, you know, when it's so far away, you think, oh, it'll be all right, it'll all be all right. And then suddenly, the day comes and you're thinking, oh my goodness me, why did I say yes? Anyway, the thing is, in order to talk about Jesus saying, I am the Good Shepherd, I think there are two things that we just need to look at in the first place, and that is to look at sheep and how they function or don't function, and to look at sacrifice, because those two things are very much tied up together when you look at the reading from St. John's Gospel. So I decided that it'd be good because Laura and I know a shepherdess who lives on the moor in Edgeworth. Now notice that I said shepherdess. And she lives up on the moor in Edgeworth. And when it's lambing time, for a number of years, Norma and I have been up to have a look at the lambs when they are born. Because when Norma was in Cornwall, she was working in Cornwall, very involved with people who were dealing with lambs. I posed two photographs of Norma holding lambs, and that sounds like an easy thing to do, but I can assure you that it isn't, as probably some of you know. And the thing about sheep is that we all think that they are a bit stupid. I always think about the Messiah, or we like sheep have gone astray. And I'd just like to tell you a little story about that, because there was a little boy who couldn't do his maths very well, and so the teacher said, well, you know about sheep because your dad's a farmer. That's right. Well, if one of the sheep goes away, how many are left? He said, none. So the teacher said, how do you make that out? He said, well, if one sheep's gone, the ball's gone. So we do think of sheep as being quite stupid, but actually, from our experience of what we've seen up on the moor, the sheep are not really stupid at all. But it's very, very necessary for the shepherdess or the shepherd to really look after them in order to get that relationship between the shepherd and the sheep and the lamb. And when I was looking it all up, and they were telling me how the shepherd used to dress, and indeed still dresses, in the Middle East, I decided I'd have a look at how our friend dresses. And when you go to see her when it's lambing time, you can't see her, because she has a hat that's like down here, and a mat that's up here, and she has trews on and thick sweaters on and wellies. And the other thing is that she always actually has a caravan, which she goes and lives in the field where the sheep are going to have lambs. She abandons the farmhouse and just goes and lives in the field. And hopefully her friends ply her with food along the way, because on the whole, she just sort of is in this caravan feeling very cold and wet and uncomfortable, and has to rely on people looking after her while the lambing is going on. And so I'm going to say to you while I'm saying all this, you must think while I'm talking to you about what Jesus said about being the good shepherd. And if you think about that, and think about our friend who was up on the moor, making sure that these sheep are all right and that the lambs are going to be okay, there is a big sort of feeling there, isn't there, of comfort, that maybe we have got this person who is very much on our side as our shepherd. So basically she lands up with very little sleep. I have a photograph here, which I took with my camera. I don't remember it, but it says a sheep with two lambs. Can you see it? Well, it's here if you want to have a look afterwards. And I have another one which is a bit better. And when you look at them like that, they do look beautiful, and you do want to pick them up, there's no doubt about it, but they don't like you picking them up because they slash out with their back legs, and if you're not careful, you land up with bruises where you didn't know you've got sort of ribs and things. And she actually makes sure that these lambs are the best quality lambs that you can possibly get. And she also, if a sheep has more than 2 lambs, and sometimes that does happen, then she can't feed 3 or she can't feed 4. So she has to sort of work out how these that are going to be like without the mother, what's going to happen. So she works out that if one of her sheep is not going to be too successful at getting 2 lambs, and she's got, this sheep here's got 3, then this one will go to this one. And what she makes sure in the middle of the night that the sort of smell of this lamb is rubbed on the sheep of this one here, so that this sheep will have 2 and this one's got 2. Now, if that doesn't happen, the barn that she's got that's like just across the way from the place where it all takes place, she has like pens. And in there, the lambs that are extra over, if you like, where there's not a sheep to feed them, go into these pens, and there are like little teats along the way, which they go along and feed themselves. But some of them are too weak to do that, and so she has to climb in and ensure that they are getting the food that they need. It is very complicated. And so the food that she has to buy is extremely expensive as well in order for these little lambs to survive. Eventually, when they can get down into the field proper with the mother, sometimes they have to wear like plastic coats, the lambs. And one of the farmhouses a bit further down in Edgeworth got in touch with our friend and said, listen, one of your little lambs is really struggling because it's got a coat on. I don't know how it managed that, but it's got its paws, not paws, under the legs and everything. And so she said, well, it's perfectly all right because it has to be wrapped up to keep warm. Now just think about, I am the good shepherd, and here is somebody who is like looking after them way beyond the time and energy sometimes that she really has got in order to do that. The ewes themselves, well, sometimes, have you seen fields when the sheep are like on the knees because they can't stand? You know, I had a holiday where I worried myself to death because we were in a cottage and right opposite it there was a field full of sheep. And some of them couldn't walk at all. And so they were just sitting in one place, sort of trying to eat the grass that was around them, because they couldn't walk. And I actually worried myself, it was no holiday, so now I make sure that there are no fields with sheep or cows or anything in that I'm going to worry about. because to look after, you have to look after the sheep itself in order to make sure that the lambs that are born are really, really, really top quality. Now I say that because as far as she's concerned, she calls them all names. Now that's an amazing thing, isn't it? And one of her lambs was born with a head that was like sideways on, and it was called Skewy. Because his head was like skewed like that. And the brother said, oh, get it, kill it, just kill it. It's not going to do anything, just kill it. Just kill. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. She said, I'm going to rear it. And bless her, she did rear it. And that little lamb became a sheep, which in turn had lambs, and one of the best mothers that she'd ever had. And yet, when you looked at it in the field, its head was like skewed on like that. But when she went to the field and called its name, guess who came to the fence? So you see, she had a really, really, really good relationship with her ewes and with the lambs. I'm not going to talk about sending them to market. I mean, well, she was terrible with that. Eventually, she got so many that she had to send them to market because she used to rear them and hope that they would in fact have sheep, except that the rams, I'm sorry about this gentleman, no good. The rams, obviously, were not usually kept, although she did keep one or two in an endeavour to actually use them in order to create more lambs. Now that's only a surface of what goes on, because sometimes the actual pasture where these lambs are going to sort of be when they've come away from the mother and away from the shepherdess, it's not good enough for them. And so she's in touch with the farmers around and says, have you got a field that's going that I can get my ewes and lambs in, because otherwise the actual grass that's on mine is just like trampled to death and it's no good for them. And the weather, as you will not well know, at this moment in time, you've got to be glad you live on a hill, haven't you? Because if you live in a field, or your cattle's in a field, then what happens then? And the other thing about it is that you can actually decide when you want these lambs to be born. We always think about lambs in spring, don't we? But in fact, you can in fact choose to have them early and late, so you can have two lots if you want, but I'm not sure that there are many shepherds who actually do that. So it is a very special way of living if you are a shepherd, because your care is not about you, your care is more about what you've got in a field and looking after them. And on top of that, she has dogs, because the dogs, the sheep dogs, are a wonderful asset to the way she actually flocks them together and keeps them together. And usually they live in the caravan with her as well. And they know when something wrong is happening. They just know it. It's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. And she does have a gun. Now, you know, you sort of think to yourself, well, I'm not sure if I in the middle of the night could go out with a shotgun with something that I might have to shoot in order to save the lambs. Think about that. Just think about it. Because if you start thinking about the Middle East and what the shepherds were like that, and if you think about David and you think about Goliath, you know, slings and things like that. So, yeah, and a license to do it. But I don't think, truth to tell, that that's ever had to happen. But when they're born, they have a number, and they have a colour, and they get a name. Now I said to myself, have I got a number? Well, I have some numbers, I can't remember them. I have them all written down in a book, all my numbers are written down, so if the burglar gets the book, then he gets the numbers, because I can't, but I have got a name. We've all got a name, haven't we? And not only that, she puts colour on them as well. And there are some farmers, because of the actual sieving that goes on, have actually made their lambs and their sheep coloured. In fact, there was one farmer who made them pink. So that if any of them were pinks, they knew, or whoever they went to go know that they were stolen because they were pink sheep. And I remember going on a train in Yorkshire with Joyce and Bert Millington, and when we got off at the train, but it was just one of these, you know, steam engines that just went up the valley, when we got off, there was in fact a field full of pink sheep. So there you go. And so she also has a quad bike, and I looked for this picture of me on a quad bike. Yeah, you can have a look at it afterwards. And I'm in a field that's a comfortable field. She said, you can't go in the field where I usually am, because she said, you'll fall off. So I just drive, and she said, and drive slowly. Well, that's not me really. Because she said, if you drive fast, you'll fall off. And so I got a friend of hers took this photograph, and I used to have it up in the office, which is now known as bedroom, so it's in the garage now, it's been demoted. So, a quad bike as well. Now, what about the Middle East? Jesus talked about being the Good Shepherd. What was on there? Well, most of the people, even now, are shepherds in the sense that that's what they are. Because when we went to the Holy Land, definitely, and they roam about all over the place. And in Jesus' time, they had pasture, which was really, really good for them. I've written it down here: Mount Carmel, Sharon, hill country south of Hebron, Gilead and Bashan. And that's where the shepherds used to be. And they used to dress, because I thought, well, I've told you how a friend dresses, so I'll tell you how they dress. They used to have a shirt of unbleached cotton, and they had a leather girdle, they had a large cloak of sheepskin, wool or hair, and they used to use that as a blanket at night. And they used to carry with them a provision pouch so that they've got some food, or a scraper of kid skin. And they used to carry a gourd. You know, people grow gourds, don't they, sometimes? They had a gourd so that they had water and milk in it. And they'd have an oak staff that was 6 foot long with a hook on the end of it to gather in the sheep or the lambs. And they had a club that was 2 foot long, and on the end of that there were nails, well, whatever they used to call them, all binding at the end. Why would they have that? Yeah, so they could actually clatter the wolf that came or something like that. Stones, did they have in this sling? Can you remember?
5.
5.
Stones.
They managed to kill the lions with one of them. And also, they used to carry pipes, panpipes, and they used to sit and play, and the sheep used to gather round them and listen. And they used to stay with the sheep all night as well. They used to count them in and count them out. And they used to put the 6 foot staff across the opening, and so they put it down like that, so the sheep had to go under the staff, over it, under it, so that they could count how many they got. And not only that, the sheep used to obey him because they understood his voice. Whatever language he happened to be talking, then they understood. And they also had names, and names probably that you and I had never even heard of, But it doesn't really matter because the lambs would understand. And they used to keep those sheep and use them for food, for clothing, and for friendship as well. And on the other side of that, there were always people who wanted jobs. You know, they used to go to the marketplace and queue for jobs. And if the shepherd needed help, they were called hirelings, and they used to go. But they didn't care a brass fig about the sheep and the lambs. All they cared about was that they got the money at the end of the day, or the end of the week, or whatever agreement they'd come to. And if they saw a wolf coming, or a lion coming, then as far as they were concerned, well, they could have the sheep and they could have the lambs, because they would not even begin to actually fight in order to save them. And so the shepherd, whose lambs they were and sheep they were, would in fact be lost. And in order to prove that he had in fact hired out his sheep while he probably did something else, he had to take a part of the lamb or the sheep to the authorities and say, look, this was my lamb, and this hireling has let this lamb be killed by the wolf, and they had to prove it like that. So it was a very sort of cumbersome way, if you like, of looking after the sheep and after the lambs. So we have good and bad shepherds, don't we? That's the thing. And when you look at Jesus and say, I am a good shepherd, then you've got to look at the shepherdess upon the moor, haven't you? You've got to look at the shepherd who really, really did look after his sheep, wherever they were, on Mount Carmel or Mount Carmel, wherever it was. You had to make sure that everything was okay. And if you look at the Bible, you'll find that Jacob talks a lot about sheep and lambs, and in Isaiah it talks about actually sending out as many shepherds as he could to fight a lion. A lion? You think to yourself, you don't think about lions there, do you? But there must have been in Jesus' day. So really we have two distinct things here, don't we? We have those shepherds who really look after the sheep, and then where we are, we can see it happening up on the moor, and any minute now they will be producing lambs, there's no doubt about that. And we have them in Jesus' day, where they really did look, and they used to go all over the place. Really, I brought with me Psalm 23. And it's a variation on the thing, because basically that sums it all up. The Lord is my shepherd, that's relationship. I shall not want, that's supply. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, that's rest. He leadeth me beside still waters, that's refreshment. He restoreth my soul, that's healing. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness, that's guidance. For his name's sake, that's purpose. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that's challenge. I will fear no evil, that's assurance. For thou art with me, that's faithfulness. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me, that's shelter. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies, that's hope. Thou anointest my head with oil, that's consecration. My cup runneth over, that's abundance. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, that's blessing. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord, that's security, forever. And that's eternity. Amen. So be it. And really, that sums up, doesn't it? Something of what a shepherd really is. And if you take it out of that context and put it into a spiritual one, you've got the words that say it. So I looked a bit further into all of this. Oh, the watch is here, I've only 5 minutes left. That's wonderful, isn't it? In Greek, apparently, I'm sure that he'll may confirm this if she can remember from when she did Greek. Agathos, is that the word? Simply describes the moral quality of a thing good. That is another word for good. Or kairos, which means that in goodness there is a quality of beauty and loveliness, which makes it full of grace. And so you can have a doctor who's skilled. You can have a doctor who's not only skilled, but very kind and generous and looks after you, can't you? And so if you look at that in the Greek, the good shepherd, there's got to be a shepherd who is skilled, but is very kind and gracious and really will look after you. And Jesus is that good shepherd. And I just want to read you something else as well. I don't want, you know, why do you remember things on the bus? But when you look at these two things, I thought, oh, I've got something about that. Because I used to like Gervais Finn. Has anybody ever read Gervais Finn? And the book I think this is an extract from is called Up and Down in the Dales. And he was visiting a school and listening to a Baptist minister talking to the youngsters about Christianity. And this is what happened when he was telling them about Jesus and the Good Shepherd. You must remember too that most of the children came from farming families because the school was in the heart of the North Yorkshire moors. And this is what it says. When Jesus was alive, this is the Baptist minister, not Methodist, Baptist minister. When Jesus was alive, he told them sheep were very important. And one rosy cheeked girl sitting in the front of the class said, "They still are." "Yes, indeed," continued the minister, "and in those days sheep provided meat, milk and cheese. But pasture was poor on the hills. Not too good up here either," she said. This is quite funny, really. I'm very good with the Yorkshire accent. "No," agreed the minister, "so the shepherd had to move his flock from place to place to find grass for the sheep. Unlike today, the shepherd of Jesus' day did not drive his flock in front of him, but led it." And that's an important thing to remember as well. "And he knew each of his sheep personally, and they answered to his call." And that's another thing as Christian people. We just have to remember Jesus as the Good Shepherd. There were several skeptical looks at this point. "How many would he have in his flock then?" asked a boy with a shock of red hair. "Well, in the parable I'm going to tell you in a minute, the shepherd has 100 sheep, replied the minister. "He's not likely to know 100 sheep personally," observed the boy. "Cows maybe, but not sheep." "Well, he probably would have known his sheep very well, but not 100, the boy replied. "Let's make a start on the story, and then we can talk about it afterwards, shall we?" said the minister. "Now, if any of those sheep strayed, and the shepherd would search for them until he found them." "He wanted a good collie," said the red-haired boy. "Save a lot of time and trouble." "I," nodded a few of the children. The minister speeded up his delivery. Surprised, really. The shepherd protected his sheep from wild animals and thieves by using a catapult. "Shotgun would have been better," said one of the children. "And at night," continued the minister, "the shepherd kept his flock in a stone-walled sheepfold topped with thorns, and he would block the entrance by lying across it." "I can't see my dad doing that," said the girl on the front row laughing. Now this parable is called the lost sheep, and it was told by Jesus nearly 2,000 years ago, said the minister. And then the minister took a deep breath. "So the shepherd left 99 and went in search of one lost sheep," the minister concluded eventually. What breed of sheep were they then?" asked the girl. "Well, does it make a difference?" the minister asked. "It makes a hell of a lot of difference," said the girl with red hair. "Some sheep are docile, others are frisky. If you're talking Erdwicks, they never shift. They'll stop where they are till the cows go home. And we've got Erdwicks. They may be small, but they're real tough and a really good breed. And out that's going, grass, heather, couch grass, out. Now, if shepherd left a flock of Erdwicks, he'd find them when he got back." "Well," said the minister, "I shouldn't imagine that the sheep were Erdwicks." "No, I like Erdwicks, you know. They're really good. And you can't land them for 12 months, did you know that? They're lovely. You see them up in the Lake District. But if you're talking about Leicester's, continued the girl, they'll be leaping all over shore. They'll be off as soon as the shepherd turned his back. So what breed was it? Said the girl. Well, said the minister, having a sudden flash of inspiration, there were Palestine Blues. A very lively breed.
I think that's the
Never heard of them. Said the girl sulkily. What does it look like? Oh, big and woolly and white, said the minister. What joy the shepherd felt when he found his lost sheep. He put it on his shoulders and hurried back to tell everyone his good news and to invite his friends to share his happiness. And were his other sheep still there? Asked the boy with the red hair. Indeed they were, and the shepherd was very happy. Now in the same way there is great rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who turns back to God when over 99 people who see no reason to repent. Remember, children, none of us is a lost sheep in the eyes of God. Silence. Did you enjoy that story? He asked the sea of little faces, and there was another long pause. Then the little boy with the red hair gave a great heaving sigh. It was rubbish, he said simply. Now it's happened. I like a story with a bit of action. And, you know, when I thought about that, sort of this afternoon, I thought, you know, that sums it all up really, doesn't it? To be truthful. Because basically, the shepherd looks after the sheep and the lambs and makes sure that they're fed and watered and that they are happy with him or her, as the case may be. And they are used for whatever reason is necessary. And if you put that in our Christian walk of life and think of Jesus as the Good Shepherd, my word, all the time. I have a little thing in the kitchen that says, take your troubles to God, he never goes to bed. What a good idea, really. And that's like the shepherd, never goes to bed. Because when she's finished lambing, absolutely dangerous in our shepherdess, because she will have very, very little sheep. And in the end, Jesus was saying, because of all the sacrifices that, I'm just saying this very quickly, really, because of all the sacrifices that they took. If you read Leviticus, chapters 1 to 7, there are so many sacrifices that you could make for so many things you've done wrong, or to please God, or to be thankful. Of all different kinds of animals, like I've written them down here, bulls, rams, goats, cows, some had to be female and some had to be male, they all had to be perfect, sheep, and if you were poor, you were allowed to take 2 doves. All for different things. And Jesus came as the Good Shepherd and also as the final sacrifice. And that's what we have to remember, that all that Jesus does and does for us and did for us is in the end so that we will be redeemed, that we will be forgiven. And in all of that, in all of our life, he looks after us. I'm sure there are times when you think to yourself, oh, I'm not so sure about all this. But it was an atonement for sin. I am the Good Shepherd. I will take care of you. In fact, I will die for you, if necessary. And it was necessary, was it not? Because we are all anything but perfect, would you say? So really, the final thing I wanted to say to you, I could read some more which I've got here, and I'm not going to do that because it's 10 to 8 now. But in that parable it also says, I have other sheep as well. And that's a really big statement, isn't it? I have other sheep as well. We are sheep and we've been lambs as well. But there are others who are waiting to hear that Jesus is the Good Shepherd. And whose task is that? Well, Jesus is not with us, but he is through the Holy Spirit in our hearts. And the task is, the mission, to tell other people that there is a good shepherd who will, in fact, take care of us and look after us, no matter what, even in the night. And I don't know about you, but night's always the worst for me. If I have a problem, you can be like Betty Boston Dollar. I'll wake up at 4 o'clock and it'll be like a great big whacking mountain. Are you like that? The molehill suddenly becomes beyond what you can even cope with. Well, always remember that God is always there through Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
So I hope you know a bit more about sheep now. And a bit more about Jesus being the good shepherd.
Well, thank you very much for that. It was wonderful, as I knew it would be. Owen wondered what number she was. Well, living in her little talk, she knew her name and so much. She wondered what number she was. Well, I have to tell you that for us in this circuit and this district, you are number 1.
Well, I'm certainly the top of the list. There was a time when I held the list up, which is 62 years ago now, but they own me up now, Glendon. I am top of the list.
Well, you say that, but you know, you offer such a lot to us all, to our churches in this circuit, and we're really deeply grateful to you for that. And we'd love to hear you talk.
Thank you.
And we wouldn't have managed to spoken for even 10 more minutes, but there you are.
I could give you 10 more minutes.
Shall we have a little prayer together? Let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this time together. We thank you that we come knowing you and you, the fact that you are our Saviour, in fact you are our Shepherd. And we thank you for the thought about shepherds, you being our shepherd. We thank you for what Olwen has said to us tonight. May we affirm ourselves in our understanding of what that means, that you are our good shepherd. What a privilege, Lord. What a joy. What a wonder. What a wonderful image. We're sorry that we are like sheep and we do go astray even now. But you are the shepherd that will gather us and take us, renew us and care for us. The shepherd who will come and call for us even though we've run away or wandered away carelessly, thoughtlessly, without a second thought. So we thank you for all these wonderful thoughts, Lord, all these wonderful images of you being our shepherd. And we must remember, and do remember it indeed, you are the shepherd, we are your sheep. Lord, the words say, oh, we like sheep have gone astray. Yes, we have, Lord, but we know we can return. And we know that we will be welcomed back. We know that you are our God, our good shepherd. And we thank you for that, Lord, from the bottom of our hearts. And we pray that those who do not yet know that fact may come soon to do so. That in another and special way your kingdom may come here on earth. Thank you, Lord, for listening to us. Thank you for the privilege of being able to be here this evening. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
We continue our theme with the I am saying to Jesus. And our next meeting is on Wednesday, the 18th of March, when we shall be being addressed by Mr. Walt Johnson, who, whilst he's with us, will really make him living, so to speak. But it's a joy to have him with us, and we are so pleased that he is able to speak to us on that occasion when it will be I am the bread, which incidentally, the very first time we did this series, when we first got together as a triangle, and we met in the triangle, and in the annex, that's what you talked to us about. Good. So, again, thanks to Olwen, and we'll see you all, hopefully on the 18th of March. Until then, I hope to see most of you regularly, every Sunday, and perhaps a lot during the week, but in the meantime, have a safe journey home. So good night and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.